Hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Rachachodash. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. All right, so we're just going to get right into fasting. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17. This is the Apostle Paul speaking, man. In weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. All right, if you read about the Apostle Paul, man, to sum it up, he knew how to be abound and he knew how to be abased. Some days he was riding high, things seemed to be going his way. Other days, things didn't go his way. You'd have to go into the Chronicles of Apostle Paul. But the part we're going to focus on is the one where it says in fastings often, right? Because if you know about Apostle Paul, he operated extremely high spiritually. And because we know that Yahweh Bashem Rashai is a balanced scale, Proverbs 11:1, we knew that Apostle Paul, because he was operating on such a high frequency spiritually on the right-hand side, he also had to have had sin that he was doing that would be considered extremely abominable. All right, so that's essentially why you'd be fasting, because spiritually, in the essence of fasting, it upgrades you in ways you couldn't even comprehend. Scripture hits differently. You're able to formulate sentences in your head in a much clearer way. You're not so bogged down by so many distractions. And fasting is a great way to do that, because it really, essentially, it's denying your flesh and increasing your spirit, versus how in this world it's designed to increase your flesh and decrease your spirit. All right, so Apostle Paul being in fastings often, it was one of the keys that allowed him to operate high spiritually, and that's what we have to apply in our lives, because we're basically in a modern day version of the book of Acts. All right, so it says here, I have a little writing. It says, first, because Yahushua taught it as a spiritual exercise, discipline, he did not say if ye fast, but when ye fast. And then you have Matthew 6:16 as reference. Moreover, when ye fast. So right then, the author and finisher of our faith, the general, he didn't say if y'all fast, he said when y'all fast. So that right there goes to show you subtly that fasting is a very important part of our spiritual toolkit. All right, fasting is like how you level up in this. It's like if you're working out at a gym, it's how you go from 50-pound dumbbells to, let's just say, 60 or 80 or 65, however you want to increase in increments. But you see increases. Although you're still in the same body carnally, essentially, you're transformed by the renewal of your mind on a consistent basis. Now, we're just focusing on fasting in this epistle, but if you were to combine it with Hebrew, especially prayers in the Hebrew, man, oh my gosh, in the Lashon Kodash, oh my goodness, man, you almost feel like a Marvel superhero. Essentially, the best way I could put it, I heard a brother say this. He said, you're like Superman, but without the powers. Because real things start to happen in your life. Now, of course, I'm talking about when you ask for spiritual things, like more understanding, more wisdom, more patience, and not just for yourself, but for all those that love the appearing of Yahushai, i.e. the elect. So going back to Matthew 6:16, the words of Yahushua HaMashiach, moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have the reward, right? Because they're They're doing something that's supposed to be spiritual and have some spiritual significance, but they're doing it on the left hand side to please man and not to please Yahweh Shai. And we know in Acts it says, "What we shall please Yahweh Shai, not the words of men." So, and I'm gonna speak specifically about Jake, not the heathen nations when they fast. Although we could reference that when you see Jake, predominantly the southern tribes, they fast. They're very proud about it, right? As you can see, their face starts to get more slender, and they're very proud. And it's totally contrary to what the point of fasting is about. It's about humbling your spirit. I learned from Apostle Tahar back when they used to do a lot of in-class videos. He was saying that if you really want to see results, you try to fast for a week, 2 weeks. But of course, this is a very advanced thing, and I'm only speaking to whoever this is supposed to be heard by. But fasting is very, very, very powerful. If done on a consistent basis, you can spiritually grow extremely fast by, I guess, our measure of time. All right, but it's all through the power of Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay, so we're going to end off with Psalm 69 and 10. When I wept and chastened my soul with fasting, that was to my reproach. This is Malak Dawud Dad. All right, King David, beloved, right? King beloved. Right, that's the point of fasting, to chasten your soul. It's basically like tightening the screws. All right, and we constantly need, in other words, if we're like a spiritual car, think of fasting and prayer as spiritual maintenance. All right, think of it as a spiritual oil change. And if you're not getting an oil change on a consistent basis, even if your engine, if you're good in other aspects of your life, you're still ultimately going to fail. And it's going to come as a thief in the night, right? We have to put on the whole armor. And part of that whole armor is fasting. Now, we all have different levels of fasting and different forms of fasting. It doesn't just come in the form of food and water. It could come in the form of you abstain from whatever, you say, for example, you're heavy into music. Maybe you listen to less music and increase more time that you're reading. That's a form of a fast. And then as you become more comfortable fasting, depending on your spiritual level, right, you'll be able to, do the ones where you give up water. Maybe you start for hours and then it turns into to days. And maybe even weeks, depending on what Yahweh Shem Shai has planned for you, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you fast or not, it's because of Yahweh Shem Shai wanting to upgrade you, right? That's why you have to often pray to be upgraded spiritually, because fasting is actually a reward. It's probably one of the highest rewards you could get in terms of spiritual gifts. We know the number one spiritual gift is prophecy, but we also have other spiritual gifts that help further the ministry. And fasting, when done for a righteous reason, to basically serve the ministry to the best of your ability, you're going to see spiritual upgrades. Like, for example, you might remember a lot more scriptures than you did before. All right, you're able to recall things. You're able to go deeper into a scripture, right? Maybe you're able to watch the apostles more often because they bring out a lot of heavy stuff, right? So just little modern examples that may be applicable, right? So just another thing, fasting is amazing. Definitely look into it. Read as much information as you can from the scriptures, as well as balance it out and see what you can learn on a secular level, right? I know that if you read about fasting, like even Esau has this written down, after about 3 days, 72 hours around there, your body starts to take care of basically waste. Like your body will start to eat at, like, let's say, pimples. It will start to eat at plaque. It will start to eat at the dead hair cell skins that are on your scalp, right? It's almost like how flies clean up shit. You know what I mean? It's pretty much like part of maintaining your spiritual ecosystem. And then you combine that with prayer, like you're like my goodness. The possibilities are endless, as it says in Luke 1 and 37, for with Yahweh Shem Yeshai, nothing is impossible. So with that, I hope y'all were edified. Shalom.